Hello and welcome to Detroit Performs. I'm your host, DJ Oliver, and today we are back at Tipping Point Theater, where they allowed us in on the rehearsal of the play, Every Brilliant Thing, which generates important conversations around mental health. Take a look.
The list began after her first attempt. A list of everything brilliant about the world, everything worth living for. Number 1, ice cream. Number 2,
depression and suicide are things that a lot more people deal with than I think we realize.
It's easier to say that it's a play about depression, but I think it's about finding things that are hopeful.
It is common for the children of suicides to blame themselves. It's natural.
It's definitely the most important piece of theater I've ever done.
No matter how much you know that you're not to blame, you can't help but feel that you failed them. It's not fair to feel that way, but it's natural.
Every Brilliant Thing is a list started by a 7-year-old in order to help his mother. Number 2, water fights.
Number 10, kind old people who aren't weird and don't smell unusual.
We actually have 2 actors playing the role, both a man and a woman, depending on the night you come, but I'm going to explain it this way. The mother has tried to commit death by suicide, and the boy decides at that moment, because he needs a way to process this, to create a list of every brilliant thing in the world, everything worth living for his mom. And when she gets home, he gives her the list, and he knows she's read it because she checks his spelling. You know, and that's the first of many light moments that show you that, you know, nobody has a day or their life is just depressing moment after depressing moment. There's always some levity in it. There's always something that happens. And he keeps revisiting the list at both high and low moments in his life. And the real story is there's always something brilliant. There's always something that you can look to, you know, at any low point in your life.
Number 23. Inspector Gadget. Oh, 24.
Spaghetti with meatballs.
25.
Everyone in their life battles these type of feelings at some point. And so I think everyone in the audience will either be going through something or they will be helping someone who's going through something. That's just the reality of who we are as human beings. So everyone will be able to relate to this story.
The weight of the issues that it's dealing with and the fact that it deals with them gently and with a great deal of care and a great deal of humor, it's just brilliant. From the first line to the last moment, the way that it's constructed is a theatrical experience that is very, very rare. And when something bad happens, the body feels it before the brain can know what's happening. It's a survival mechanism. The stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol flood your system. It feels like a trapdoor opening beneath you. Fight or flight or stand as still as you can. I stood very still.
We're really charged as actors in this show to help people remember why it's good to be living right now, right here. So it's a really, really important piece.
I mean, the idea that a list of nice things could somehow combat hardwired depression was embarrassingly naive. I was so upset, I went to rip the list in half when I noticed someone else's handwriting.
I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't have someone in their life that is dealing to some extent with some behavioral health challenges, whether it be depression or otherwise. And I think a lot of people don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to talk about it. It's not as simple as, hey, just be happy. And that's part of the reason we partnered with St. Mary Mercy Hospital for this production, is to say, hey, here's some resources that are out there, whether you're a person that's dealing with depression or you're a person whose family member or friend is dealing with depression.
The show is a very nice portrayal of a child who grows into an adult whose mother is suffering from depression and suicide attempts, and it shows how it affects him, how it affects his relationships growing up, and how as a child, and even as an adult, he understands that mental illness.
On her mirror was 575.
Piglets.
And on the kettle was 654.
Marlon Brando.
And on her bed was number 11.
Bed.
Each morning, outside my door, I would find a small stack of yellow squares of paper. So I became more inventive.
By the show's end, he has reached 1 million things. But the problem is, even 1 million brilliant things, that's not going to treat the depression. The proper treatment for depression is the psychotherapy, the medication, the treatment that we have in place that so many people really either don't know about or don't pursue for whatever reason.
I think when we're really serious about something, it seems untouchable. and people become uncomfortable and they don't really want to look at something that's so heavy. But if we can remember that there's levity and joy dancing around even the most serious of items, then it makes it a lot more approachable.
I think it's very important to keep in mind that we are all human, and humans are imperfect. Mental illness is something we often take so seriously, it's almost too serious. We don't want to go anywhere near it. When we use humor as an approach, it softens it and makes it more accessible to people. So we are able to talk about it and help to remove the stigma associated with it.
Great. I'm going to stop you. There is only one hard and fast rule when euthanizing the beloved pet of a small child, and that is no smiling. So other than that, it's going really well. I think we can do this.
What's the most amazing about this is it's the exact same script for both actors, and it is a completely different show. The tone is different, the feel is different, but the message stays the same.
And that was my experience of death. A loved one becoming an object and being taken away forever.
And also, I love the audience interaction component. The audience comes in and they're our scene partner, and we get to put our trust in a new group of people every day, and that's awesome.
Are you saying that this book, caused people to take their own lives?
No? Yes. Yes.
Huh. And you would like us to read that book?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, my lecturer!
It gets people leaning in and gets people listening and gets people feeling like they're part of the journey that the actor's taking. And I think that really leads to a lot of meaningful conversations when people walk out at the end of the show, now armed with some context around depression.
I have a piece of advice for anyone who's been contemplating suicide. It's really simple advice, it's this. Don't do it. Things get better. They don't always get brilliant, but they get better.
You can learn more about Every Brilliant Thing and find mental health resources on DetroitPerforms.org.